Alrighty, yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. DDG94, back with another reaction video. Today we're going to react to Remember What's New, Scooby-Doo? Do y'all remember What's New, Scooby-Doo? I remember What's New, Scooby-Doo, because I grew up off that shit. But anyways, though, let's get right into this. Scooby-Doo, where are you? We got some work to do now.
Wait, remember What's New Scooby-Doo?
Yes, sir.
A lot of people my age probably do, as it has that kick-butt opening theme song performed by Simple Plan, so simply, it's iconic. Aside from the main line of Scooby-Doo animated movies starting to come from 1998 and beyond, the Scooby-Doo brand was about to undergo a grand return in so many ways. The last main TV series for Scooby-Doo was A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, which ended in 1991. And then 11 years later, in 2002, the next series finally hit with What's New Scooby-Doo. It was the great resurgence after a lengthy hiatus, depending on who you ask. 2002 also saw the first live-action film for Scooby-Doo.
Yes,
and you
sir.
could tell that Warner Brothers was pushing hard, banking on the property becoming popular once more. It hopped on the straight-to-DVD film release train, they turned it into a giant blockbuster live-action film, and when it came to a new show, they decided to go back to the roots of what made Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo. Instead of asking the dog where he's at, the question was, what's new? Emphasis on the new part, so you don't get it confused with the original. This is the new Scooby-Doo, gosh darn it, and you will respect that, even if it is a lot like the old. To continue on our spooky season kick of Scooby-Doo content, what better way to continue than speak on the iteration I remember the most from watching while I was growing up. So today, we're going to take a look back at What's New Scooby-Doo, a series that wanted to recreate the original vibe of the first series, but just giving it that modern turn-of-the-century update.
Hey, yo. We not in Halloween spooky season anymore, but Scooby-Doo is definitely an all-around classic, so it don't even matter.
2002, What's New Scooby-Doo was an exciting return to form for the franchise. A Pup Named Scooby-Doo was a mixed bag for a lot of people since it aged all the characters down to children, and it could be considered more juvenile by that very nature. But it's still my personal favorite version of the series. But right up there amongst my favorite iterations is What's New. They wanted to play things safe for the property returning after so long that both the newer, younger generation and older fans of the franchise could jump aboard and enjoy, but it definitely skewed towards the newer, younger audience. It was exciting and modern enough to fit alongside any other cartoon on TV at the time, and it had that classic winning formula Scooby-Doo was originally known for to win back viewers from the past. It didn't try to reinvent the characters, add in an ongoing mystery that gets put together episode to episode, or even focus on one or two of the main cast of characters instead of the entire gang. All of these would be explored to certain extents later on with different iterations, to which we've covered most of them here on the channel already, and I don't think it was a bad thing to eventually try and do. But coming out of a decade-plus retirement, What's New Scooby-Doo was exactly what was needed in re-establishing these meddling kids and their dog. The gang's all here, as they all are back in the Mystery Machine, driving around and solving mysteries in different random towns. Whether it's a monster, generic bad guy, ghost, or a band of vampires that helped lead me on a path to my taste in women, What's New played it just like the original series. The gang take on the challenge of solving the mystery, catch the bad guy, and reveal what's really been going on the whole time before they're off on another mystery. Much like my channel, it plays into the nostalgia of it all. It wanted to present Scooby-Doo in its base form, just with a fresh coat of paint, and man, growing up with this version was a great introduction into getting into the property as a whole. It really sparked my interest in digging in more to the other series of Scooby-Doo out there.
I'm sleeping in the van. Who's with me? Like, maybe nobody's home.
What's New Scooby-Doo ran from 2002 until 2006, producing 3 seasons filled with a total of 42 new adventures to go on, and mysteries to solve. It's pretty packed with a lot of fun, but also a lot of the same. We get to visit a lot of really cool and unique areas for the show to take place, keeping the feeling fresh enough between episodes, as these episodes are standalone when it comes to a mystery popping up that will be solved by the end of it. It's definitely interesting to think of Scooby-Doo not having modern technology if you are my age or younger, but seeing the use of electronics like cell phones and other gadgets would be something newer for the franchise that older fans may have been a little surprised to see. But like any media, they adapted with the time. They try to be relevant in placing the show in current day. Well, current day of the early 2000s. It wouldn't feel weird though. It's not like everything relied on being controlled by a computer and that's how the day gets saved, but more so as just an enhancement to their operations and to help set a place and time for the show to take place. This monster, ghost, or bad guy mystery of the week format have kept things in line for what to expect with each episode, but the characters always kept it interesting because of the familiarity to them. They all are iconic, and the group's dynamic never fails to offer some fun banter or heartfelt moments between them. I feel like this is a major reason why the older I get, the more I enjoy Scooby-Doo. It reminds me of friends just going on some weird adventures together. For the characters themselves, they still were who they have always been, just with a few tweaks to fit in other dynamics of mystery solving, jokes, or their relationships as friends. For their character designs, they were also slightly updated as well to make them feel distinct to the series, but also for modern fashion of the early 2000s. This ain't your grandparents' Scooby-Doo, this is new Scooby-Doo. It needed to be somewhat hip, not breaking its hip. Fred is still the leader of the group, but he's still not the brightest in terms of general knowledge, but he sure is great at coming up with and laying traps to eventually catch the bad guy. Shaggy is still Shaggy, not being the bravest, likes to eat a whole bunch, and like, zoink Scoob, let's get out of here! You know what I mean? Scooby, much like Shaggy, is about the same, but as a dog, and that's completely okay. Maybe he acts and moves around more like a human than a dog here, but it's still good old Scoob. Daphne is still the fashionista, never showing up to a mystery without looking fierce and ready, having her be more capable of holding her own in a fight, along with her crafting skills, but can still easily become the character that needs to be rescued if the villain decides to take a hostage for a bit. Velma is still the smartest in the group and overall smartest in nearly any room she'll walk into, and nothing that was added to flesh up these characters slightly would affect the core elements that made them them in the first place. They were small but appreciated add-ons that only served to add a little more to how the group operates as a whole between each other, and in saying that, it did leave more to be desired. They feel like genuine friends at the end of the day who are all just palling around, getting into goofy little situations and new places, and it's that perfect level of charm that the show needed to have. There wasn't too much to take in. You just turn on any episode and enjoy the ride you get from it. Where the series does tend to feel a bit different is the tone of the show. It does have its creepier and darker elements, don't get me wrong, but the show is lively with color. It makes use of this in every way possible. This wasn't your basic Crayola 24-pack, this was the massive 64-pack, which included the sharpener on the back. So in transition of how the animation was made between the original series and what's new, the darker color palette and full-time horror aesthetic were not played into as much. I will say that to complement the more pop feeling it has visually, the music really fits the bill here, with the soundtrack and obviously the opening theme song playing into the pop-punk vibes of the early 2000s. And yes, that is Smash Mouth in an episode of What's New Scooby-Doo, R.I.P. Steve Harwell. The show took a very fond sound from the time that many look back on with a lot of love and nostalgia for. I mean, did you see the turnout for Blink-182 in Vegas for the When We Were Young concert? I did, just not in person though. I was busy at TwitchCon and also bearing witness to $10,000 in vintage Magic the Gathering card packs being opened, but I heard the concert was great too. In traditional Scooby-Doo fashion, there is always some sort of explanation to the crazy things the gang encounters. It could be the most fantastical or impossible thing that would have to be literally what it is at face value, but then it's just some dude or a group of people behind it all with robots, machines, disguises, or, well, the explanation really doesn't matter. You end the mystery going, ah, yes, of course, it was so-and-so all along, and they somehow made all of this happen. It leans into the ridiculousness of it at first, but lets that fall to the wayside in the end to wrap things up. It's a point of the future of Scooby-Doo from this moment on that people can either accept or hate, with future series playing with that fact of what could and couldn't be real or explained. While I overall don't mind it in the series here, it can be something that feels a bit played out or tiring by the end of the show's run, but this thought can be extended to most Scooby-Doo media in general, and not really an issue unless you're mass-consuming Scooby-Doo content in rapid succession like I've been doing, so it could just be a me thing. But totally let me know if it was also a you thing as well. Now, when it comes to anything deeper in the show when comparing it to what's yet to come with stuff like Mystery Incorporated, it's all pretty surface level. I don't mean that in a negative way either. I think Scooby-Doo can work on either front, and for what this series was, it just really hits the exact feeling that made the original series so special in the first place. There are still a nice amount of somewhat creepier moments, a lot of laughs to be found from the situational comedy or well-written jokes, and a level of nostalgia for the series that works for me since I grew up mainly with this iteration. The other main version I watched was my favorite version, a pup named Scooby-Doo, thanks to seeing reruns of it. And to see a fun callback to the series that came before What's New, when Velma has a flashback to when she was younger and it shows the group as they were in a pup named Scooby-Doo, it was just so cool to see, and it made both of the series feel a tiny bit connected, even if it would be nothing more than a nod to the other series. The timeline for Scooby-Doo and all the different shows is weird, and it's really not meant to always feel connected with basically all of the iterations iterations beyond the year 2000 being their own thing. But there's probably a massive Scooby-Doo fanatic out there that deep dives all of that in a digestible way. Me, I just go, oh look, it's a new Scooby-Doo show. Cool. The art style before this series wasn't really changed all that much either, aside from of course a pup named Scooby-Doo, but the franchise would begin playing around with this going forward. What's New Scooby-Doo plays it pretty close to the feeling of the original, and designed the characters off of this base realism look, and this only ever gets challenged when the causes of the mysteries arrive or the scenarios the gang face become over the top. This goes back to the whole tone thing, where some iterations really match every piece together with the designs of the characters, bad guys, and the setting. But for what's new, it can feel like a bit of a random roll of the die if what's being shown truly fits the show's overall aesthetic or not. During the course of the 3 seasons, the show would have one special holiday-themed episode to be a part of it, and I enjoy when a cartoon gets into the spirit of whatever they want to celebrate on the show. Here we had a Scooby-Doo Christmas, a Scooby-Doo Halloween, naturally, and lastly, a Scooby-Doo Valentine, because every dog has to have his day, you know? And remember how I said Scooby-Doo stays relevant to the current times through stuff like technology, references, and music? Well, Smash Mouth wasn't the only surprise appearance. The series had Simple Plan appear in the show outside of just being the ones to do the theme song, Kiss made an appearance, Ryan Sheckler popped up, and many other celebrities voicing made-up characters with similar traits to who they are in real life, like Tiger Woods. Scooby-Doo this time around for its resurgence definitely focused on the growing aspect of merch surrounding popular properties, with one market in particular. The DVD market was pretty booming and a somewhat easy sell for younger audiences to get a handful of episodes at a time through the individual releases before they would put them together in season box sets. With the movies coming out each year already cementing an audience's minds to pick up the latest adventure on VHS or DVD, Scooby-Doo had a good lead into the home video market. There was a lot of success to be found in bringing back Scooby-Doo to fit the modern IP bankability of the early 2000s. To keep people around though, the formula clearly needed some sort of change beyond this, as What's New Scooby-Doo clearly does have its downsides. The animation quality can be your standard and solid looking affair, but at other times can come off a bit cheap looking, and some animation errors or continuity issues could be spotted if you were actively looking for them. The easygoing, repetitive nature got a bit tiresome by the end of the 3 seasons, but it did what it originally set out to do, bring back the old in a new way. To what degree of quality that meant, that's up to you and how you feel about it when looking back at it now. When it comes to this iteration of Scooby-Doo really surprising you with something, if you go back and watch it for the first time, you won't get a lot out of it. If you're looking for more of a simple old school version of Scooby-Doo, or if you have seen it before and want some good old nostalgic feels, then What's New Scooby-Doo can fill that request no problem. It's Scooby-Doo in its most safe and open form for anyone to enjoy, and I think there's beauty in that. It brings all the montages, slapstick comedy, and frightening scenarios you'd expect when thinking of Scooby-Doo, with any newer elements added not really dug into more than surface level. It's not that deep of a show, but it sure still has that entertainment factor. When rewatching it, it brings me back to when I would initially watch it on TV. It wasn't trying to break the mold, but reaffirm why the mold worked in the first place, and that kind of charm is hard to find, especially in a franchise that has so many versions to watch. And that's not even including all the movies, and there are a lot of them. It would be crazy if someone were to watch all nearly 50 of them and make a big video about it. Anyway, let me know in the comments your thoughts on What's New Scooby-Doo. Did you grow up with it? Were you a fan of the classic structure to it? Or have other versions of Scooby-Doo grabbed your attention and interest more? I'm curious to know. I've been Jordan Fringe. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe.
Definitely grew up with this. They used to put the Scooby-Doo episodes on. I think what they would do is they'll let one season complete, and then they would put all the episodes on WB Kids for Saturday mornings, because that's what Warner Brothers used to do. They used to take their old properties and put them on WB Kids. Yeah. So I did grow up with this. This definitely was my Scooby-Doo that I grew up with. I know a lot of people from the 70s and 60s, they'll say, or 80s, they'll say that, oh, I grew up with I grew up with this Scooby-Doo, I grew up with that Scooby-Doo. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. Scooby-Doo has been around for a very long time, so there's a lot of generations that grew up with a certain type of Scooby-Doo, and I grew up with this one. So yeah, without further ado, let me know what y'all grew up, what Scooby-Doo y'all grew up with. Because I grew up with this one. I grew up with a pup named Scooby-Doo too. I grew up with that one too. But mainly this one, because this was the more newer iteration that was like all over the place. So yeah, let me know what y'all Scooby-Doo was in the comment section below. I'll get back to you till then. Peace out.